Before we begin, I invite you to gently close your ears and focus on what remains when all external sounds fade away. It's like sitting in a quiet room, and after a while, you notice a subtle ringing or hum beneath the silence. If you listen closely, you'll start to experience this soft, constant presence, something that feels like the very fabric of reality itself. In quantum physics, it's said that everything is connected at the most fundamental level, and that everything we see is just a manifestation of deeper, unseen energy. What you are hearing, or rather feeling, is that same energy, that same field of potential. This subtle ringing is what we call the sound of silence. It's not just an abstract concept or some external force. It's the very essence of you. Everything we discuss in this session and the ones to come will be about this sound of silence. It is not something separate or different from you. It is you. This exploration is about realizing that the sound of silence is your own inner being, your most fundamental nature, the stillness from which all life arises. You are that, the very presence behind everything. Santa, with a twinkle in his eye and a thoughtful look on his face, leans back in his chair, stroking his beard as he begins to explain the situation. He speaks slowly, clearly, his words full of warmth, as though he's about to share some sage wisdom. Well, now, let me tell you, my dear friend, life can be full of these moments, when you don't quite understand what's going on. You find yourself in a pickle, as I sometimes do when it's Christmas Eve and I have a sleigh full of presents, but the reindeer are off in a different direction. But you see, there's no turning back from such moments. You may not have all the answers, and sometimes you feel lost, but you've got to figure out the right thing to do, because time doesn't wait for you to catch up. Now, in situations like these, what do? We try our best to understand. But let's be honest, it's not always easy, is it? When you're faced with a problem and you don't even know what the right answer is, what action do you take? Well, that's the tricky part, isn't it? You could sit there wondering, worrying about every little thing, or you could act. But even acting is a challenge when you don't have a full understanding of the situation. You see, no matter what you choose to do, you're basing that decision on what you know at the time. Just like when I'm flying through the night sky, I rely on what I know, what I've learned from years of delivering presents, but there's always the chance something unexpected will come up, like a storm or a missing toy. Oh, how many times I've had to think on my feet. Now, think of it this way. Let's say you're being asked to hand someone a bottle, but you don't even know what a bottle is. You're fumbling around, trying to figure it out, but without the proper understanding, how could you possibly take the right action? You see, the right action, the one that feels just right, can only come when you understand what's in front of you. If you don't, well, how could you even begin to make a decision? It's like trying to ride my sleigh without knowing how to steer. So what's the secret, you ask? How do we act in a way that feels right? My dear, the answer lies in knowledge and experience. You see, we can't act beyond what we know. Until we fully grasp a situation, our actions will always be limited. But that's okay. We're not perfect, and we're constantly learning. Imagine if every decision we made was based on clear, concrete knowledge, backed by reality. Oh, how smooth things would be. You see, reality is what's important here. Real, hard facts that have been tested time and time again. They aren't based on beliefs or theories, but on what's actually happened, what's been proven. When we have that kind of understanding, acting in the right way becomes much simpler. That doesn't mean there aren't challenges. Even in mechanical things, like when I'm driving the sleigh, there's a process to follow. You have to know how to handle the reins, how to steer the sleigh through the clouds, and what to do if something goes wrong. If I didn't know all that, well, there would be a big mess every Christmas. It's all about following a process, learning the right steps, and sticking to them. Now, if I were to ignore what I've learned and try to do something different, say flying the sleigh upside down, there'd be an accident for sure. Life works the same way. If we don't follow what we've learned, things can go awry. But life isn't always as clear-cut as flying the sleigh. Sometimes you're with someone and things just aren't working out between you. You're left wondering, do I stay with them or do I go? Do I fight or do I make peace? There's no book that tells you exactly what to do, no manual for how to handle every single situation. And that's where things get tricky. You have to learn from experience, from what you've seen and what you know. You can't just make decisions blindly. Though, ho, we've all been there. The thing is, whatever action you take will always be based on what you know at that moment. Even if you don't want to act, sometimes you'll find yourself doing it out of habit, out of what feels familiar to you. So what can you do? You have to see things clearly. The more clearly you see the situation, the better your chances of making the right decision. You need to keep learning, to keep understanding how things work in the real world, not in some imaginary world where everything is perfect. Life isn't perfect, and neither are our actions. Even when we do everything right, the outcome might still surprise us. That's the nature of life. It's unpredictable. I've made plenty of decisions over the years that seemed right at the time, but didn't turn out as expected. Like that one Christmas when I thought I'd left all the presents perfectly wrapped, only to find out later I'd mixed up the names. Oh, what a night that was! But here's the real kicker. No matter how much we think we've got things under control, the results of our actions aren't always in our hands. And that's where a bit of wisdom comes in. You can do everything right, think through every detail, and still end up with an unexpected result. That's life. Sometimes, even when we mean well, things don't go as planned. You might do something with the best intentions, only to find that the other person doesn't appreciate it, or worse, they react negatively. What do you do then? You see, it's a constant process of evaluating and re-evaluating the situation. Every moment, things are changing, and that means the right action changes too. Oh, yes, my friend, life is a game of constant adjustment. One moment you think you're doing the right thing, and the next you realize maybe it wasn't so right after all. It's like steering the sleigh through a snowstorm. Every gust of wind changes your course, and you have to adjust on the fly. That's what life is, constantly shifting and changing, and we need to be ready to shift with it. To live in the present, to understand what's happening right now, not what we think should be happening or what we wish would happen. This is where a clear mind comes in handy, a mind that sees things as they are, not as we imagine them to be. And let me tell you, the more you understand life, the easier things become. When you stop clashing with the world, when the internal and external conflicts begin to fade, you'll know you're on the right path. It's like a smooth sleigh ride on a clear night. Everything just falls into place. That's what it means to take the right action, not just once, but again and again as life unfolds in front of you. The journey never ends, and that's the beauty of it. There's always something new to learn, a new moment to understand, and a new way to act wisely. And that, my dear friend, is the true spirit of life.